By me, Sam Cooke. Overview. What was 9/11? On September 11th, 2001, two aeroplanes struck the World Trade Center in New York City. Another plane struck the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, and another was intended to strike the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. The fourth plane was taken back over by the passengers and was crashed in a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. All 13 passengers on board died. The terrorists of 9/11 were Islamic extremists, Muslims that believed religious law should govern the world. They were associated with Al-Qaeda. They wanted to retaliate against America for interfering with affairs in the Middle East. They knew they couldn't take down America in a direct war, so they aimed to destroy symbols of American imperialism. The Twin Towers to symbolize capitalism, the Pentagon to symbolize the army, and the Capitol to symbolize legislature. What was music like? Around 9/11, hip-hop, R&B, and rap music were getting more mainstream attention. However, many of the albums released on 9/11 were from rock and metal bands, which will be the focus of this presentation. In rock and metal, the subgenre of nu metal and post-grunge were very popular. Nu metal fuses alternative metal and another subgenre. For example, Slipknot is a fusion genre of alternative and death metal. Post-grunge, as the name implies, is the genre that came after grunge, more specifically after the death of Kurt Cobain. However, in my opinion, post-grunge is interchangeable with regular grunge. Few examples are Nickelback, Puddle of Mudd, and the Veer Union. Many bands fuse both genres effectively, such as Stained, 3 Days Grace, and Breaking Benjamin. The scene at the time. Based on observation, around 9/11, artists and musicians were getting comfortable with depicting the World Trade Center as being destroyed. As aforementioned, the World Trade Center was used to symbolize capitalism and the American economy. There was even an album that was released on the morning of 9/11 that depicts the Twin Towers on fire. Nationally, many people were upset after the Bush versus Gore decision, particularly in the punk scene. Later on, this decision helped influence Rock Against Bush. Rock Against Bush was started by NoFX frontman / bassist Fat Mike during Bush's 2004 re-election campaign. Slayer. Slayer is a thrash metal band from Huntington Park, California. By 2001, their popularity had already fizzled out, but they were experiencing a revival. They were the most prominent in the 80s thrash scene. That day, they released their 9th album, God Hates Us All. Its name comes from the song Disciple. The album was finished in June of that year, but had to be delayed due to production issues. Due to the controversial album art, and likely high tensions in the United States, the album had to be reissued with a sleeve so that it could be sold in more places. Most of the album's lyrics were written by rhythm guitarist Kerry King. The picture on the top depicts the album cover as it was originally, and the bottom one depicts the sleeve. If you go to listen to a song from the album on YouTube, it's most likely that the cover on the bottom will be displayed for the thumbnail. Leftover Crack. This event was particularly influential on the crust/ska punk band Leftover Crack, whose album Mediocre Generica was released on that day. In 2004, they released their second album, F World Trade, which depicts 3 politicians laughing as they pour gasoline on the World Trade Center. Obviously, the album was banned by most mainstream retailers like Walmart and Best Buy. Leftover Crack formed as a spin-off of Choking Victim. Both bands are from the Alphabet City neighborhood in New York City. In turn, they were heavily influenced by the Tompkins Square riots of 1988. And for context, the Tompkins Square riots were held in New York City in 1988 between squatters and police. The squatters were from the C Squad apartment in Alphabet City, which was a notorious place for punks to live, and it was started over a curfew. On the top, you see the cover for the album, and on the bottom, you see the band performing in Germany in 2004. In the middle with the microphone is Leftover Crack frontman SZA. Nickelback. Nickelback is a post-grunge band from Hanna, Alberta, Canada. Formed by brothers Chad and Mike Kroger and their friend Ryan Peake in 1995. Lead vocal / guitar, bass, and rhythm guitar respectively. Their third album, Silver Side Up, was released on 9/11. It contains How You Remind Me, one of their biggest hits. Unlike other albums and bands that released music that day, the album sales weren't negatively impacted by the event. At that point, How You Remind Me had been out since July 17th that same year. The album peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Nickelback has never released a statement on 9/11. On the top, you see the album cover for Silver Side Up, and on the bottom, you see the cover for the single How You Remind Me. Dream Theater. If you recall earlier, This is the band that released an album of the Twin Towers burning on 9/11. Dream Theater is a progressive metal band from Boston, Massachusetts. For context, progressive metal is pretty much just a name that means metal that is very hard to play. The band was formed by Berklee students John Petrucci, John Myung, and Michael Portnoy on guitar, bass, and drums respectively. The album consists of material recorded a year prior in August 2000. At the time, the band was touring for their fifth album, Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory. Swiftly after the album was released, the band issued a recall on the album. The album was reissued a month later on October 16th. For those who don't know, Berklee is a famous musicians' college, and on the top is the original cover for the album, and on the bottom is the reissue cover. My Chemical Romance. One of the most famous bands to come out of 9/11 was My Chemical Romance. After witnessing the plane strike the towers on a ship coming from New Jersey, frontman Gerard Way needed an outlet for his emotions, so he decided to start a band with his brother Mikey. My Chemical Romance went on to be massively popular and pioneering, particularly among the bludgeoning emo scene. They're considered to be the voice of a generation, cemented after their 2008 album, The Black Parade. In spite of the band's origins, Gerard has only written one song about the experience, Skylights and Turnstiles, off of their first album, I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love. On the top, you see the album cover for I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love. And on the bottom, in the middle with the guitar, is their lead guitarist, Ray Toro. And to the right with the microphone is Gerard Way. You can see to the left the bass of his brother Mikey.